My name is Sarah Johanna Leroux, student number 489-1872 for the module HMV4802 on the subject of African feminisms, assignment 2. The assignment question is prepare a presentation in which you summarize the analysis of one example from the article above through an African feminist lens, including a summary of the theorists that you research that are applicable to these works. My image is Renee Cox, 1993, Your Mama, which is a gelatine silver print, large format of 82 by 47 inches, or 121,9 by 213,4 centimeters. About the artist Renee Cox family portraits. Renee Cox is a Jamaican-born photographic artist and her artwork. Renee Cox is a Jamaican-born photographic artist who uses her provocative photographic art to address the legacy of slavery, and her main focus is to empower the minorities while challenging stereotypical representations through her artworks, according to Phillips Bradley in 2012, which also described Renee Cox as fierce, fabulous, and one of the most controversial African American artists of our time, who uses photography to question our views on the state of politics, race, relation, female body, the role of women, and feminism today. She depicts the persona of a black woman who are comfortable with their gender, race, identities, and bodies by using her own naked body in her work. Renee criticizes the sexist and racial society we live in, while at the same time she is placing emphasis on the importance to empower and appreciate black women in all communities and all cultures. With this interpretation of image through African lens, patriarchal ideology that inspired feminism, large format and looking down, Black African feminism, success or failure. With this striking and powerful image of herself in black high heels can be interpreted as in an ambiguous way. It contradicts the traditional images of women as nurturing mothers and the way she holds her son to be free instead of wrapped in a blanket close to her chest. She is showing him to the world in a free but in a protective way. The nude self representation of herself, looking down to the viewer, represents the feminism ideology that women do not need to be submissive according to patriarchal beliefs, but can be assertive and in a powerful position. With a nudity which is against the normal black African traditions and usually unacceptable, where only the female breast is to be exposed, Renee Cox used nudity to represent the sexuality of a woman as a mother and merged maternity and sexuality in this work. In her Your Mama large mother and child portrait of 83 inches by 42 inches, she focuses on the importance of women not only as mothers but equally intellectual and powerful forces to be reckoned with. Through the way Renee Cox portrayed motherhood, she used nudity and a woman looking down from an elevated position, which is frowned upon in the black African culture. She opposed the society's expectations of how a mother has to be portrayed and wants to enhance the idea that women can be sexually attractive while being a mother at the same time. Renee Cox is focusing on feminism and questioning the success of black African feminism awareness. With feminists who aim to challenge patriarchal ideologies, it is different in the black African culture, where the struggles of apartheid and racism can result in African feminism to be less important than unity against oppression. What is African black feminism? Is it a racist term? The different strands of African feminism, as explained by Pinky Mekwe, collaboration between African feminists and European and Western feminists, Difference between Black African feminism and Black women in Europe and America. Fight against multiple oppressions. African feminism is about the concerns raised by women of color regarding their culture. Different theories and opinions from not only African or Black feminisms, but also includes feminists globally like Asia, Latin America, Middle East, Palestine, and former settler colonies, post colonial. This presentation, however, will focus on the Black and African feminists. The concept of Black, which refers to race, and the African, which refers to location, were criticized by Pinky Mekwe in 2010 and branded it as racist, while she also speaks about different strands of African feminism, such as the Third World feminism, womanism, and Negro feminism. Third world feminism refers to the women in third world countries which have to focus on their local or national context and struggles. Womanism can be explained as a social based theory to describe the history and current daily lives of black women. Negro feminism is a black feminist movement who engage with the exclusion of black women in relation to racism, sexism, and classism. Negro feminism fights for the black women who were excluded from mainstream feminism because of racial discrimination, while they were also excluded from black liberation movements due to their gender. Christine Sylvester in 1995 noted that the strength of the philosophical strategies of African feminism are solidarity or interdependency and not a power theory. She also suggested that African feminists engage in conversation with established and often white and Eurocentric theory in combination with their local, particularized feminist voices. Is in 2011 urged African feminism to not only focus on post-colonial theory, which focus on race and focus on the fight of multiple oppressions of African women and not only on the West's hold of the African people. Wickham in 1990 and Lewis in 2001 are both authors who stated that black African feminism must take in consideration that black women's experiences are different from black women in Europe and in America. Black women who are academically educated and part of the middle class may view life experiences much more different than poor or uneducated African black women. My research on African feminism includes instability and multiplicity of African societies, collaboration with interdependent sources, feminism difficulties in South Africa, and ways women in South Africa are oppressed. To write and to comment about the research and to theorize African and African art and their culture, Sarah Nuttall and Mpembe in 2004 caution against models which do not take in consideration the aspects of instability, change, and multiplicity, which are part of African societies and must be combined with fundamental philosophical inquiry in order to theorize about Africa and African art and culturally correctly. Bakara Youssef in 2003 also promoted informed exchange between African feminism and other theoretical traditions. Audre Lorde in 1983 advocates also that African feminism to make use of interdependence, non-dominant different sources. African feminism has a different approach towards feminism due to the difficulties in South African history, where nationalism has taken priority over women's issues until the end of apartheid in 1994, according to Hassim in 2005. But Judith Butler in 2003 explained that black women were seen not only as mothers, but as mothers of the nation, who was responsible for moral and cultural well-being of children, and therefore were expected to perform according to their grouping's expectations. Feminism in South Africa is quite different to Western feminism due to the struggle for liberation and nationalism, which has taken priority over the women's oppression until the end of apartheid. The feminism movement in South Africa does not have a single ideology that represents the women's movement, according to our SIM, which results in the fight against patriarchy and women's oppression to be unsuccessful due to the different races, classes, and colonial form of domination. To quote Desiree Lewis in 1993 about feminism in South Africa, she noted that feminism obscured the class and race underpinnings of its conceptualization of gender and feminism. It is important to focus on race, class, gender in South Africa when we look at the oppression of women and other marginalized groups, which can be described as intersectional feminism. Inequalities according to race persist in the marginalization of black people with specific reference to black women, which results in a poor growth of the feminist theory in South Africa, according to Lewis in 1993. The intersectional feminism includes marginalized people, historical values and culture, and feminism in different ethnic and racial groups. According to Dill in Zambrana in 2013, intersectional feminism focused on the understanding of the experiences and struggles of oppressed and marginalized people. Intersectional feminism in South Africa is still very real due to language that continues to oppress certain groups. The historical origins of violence against black women can be the reason for the high levels of gender-based violence in South Africa, according to Kuala 2007 and 2015. To understand violence against women, the intersection between race and gender is important. Gender is not a stable identity, but produced through cultural interpretation, and sex and is performative. According to Judith Butler in 2003, she explains a theory of performative by saying that the ideas and explanations on gender and sexuality focuses on the belonging to a specific ethnic or racial group that embrace certain expectations on behavior and become performative. Her theories can be demonstrated successfully through art and music, where gender and gender norms are relevant. Many contemporary artists explore the idea of gender through different devices like exaggeration and sometimes inversion of what we expect certain bodies to look like or do. Interdisciplinary studies and black feminism, cultural representations and gender coherence and gender identity. Feminists try to define gender as something that cannot only be masculine or feminine because each position is particular and unique. The study of feminism and gender is interdisciplinary and focuses on gender with specific focus on cultural representations of gender and people's lived experiences. Judith Butler in 1990 explained that gender is socially constructed and not an expression of biological facts, and in her book Gender and Trouble, Butler stated that sex, sexuality, and gender are performative acts, and the nature of biology and gender are regulated by social values and norms. According to Butler, any person's sexuality and gender identity are fluid, and the normative acceptance of heterosexuality results in normal relations between sex, gender, and sexual desire. Gender coherence can be explained as the binary gender norms of male and female. To conclude this presentation is this image by Renee Cox of Your Mama in 1993. It is challenging the traditional views. The photographic image by Renee Cox of Your Mama, which is a self-portrait, is challenging the traditional African feminism because of her being totally naked with her child. The traditional African feminism is not so provocative due to cultural beliefs and patriarchal systems, still relevant in the African societies. The photographic artwork makes an impression because it lets a woman think about their position as sexual women and mothers, even though it may be frowned upon in the African traditional depictions of nurturing women. This is just the bibliography. Thank you very much.